So I was running out of battery last night, so I couldn't read you a story. But Zafira had picked out this one for you. The Wild Washerwomen by John Yeoman and Quentin Blake. This was one of Tessa's favorite stories when she was a girl, and so later on in life, when we were married and had Zafira, we went looking on the internet and we found an old copy from a library that had been taken out of circulation. So we snapped it up. The Wild Washerwomen. I'm just going to come a little closer so you can see a little better. The Wild Washerwomen, a New Folktale by John Yeoman. I don't know if you can see that. Once upon a time, there were 7 washerwomen. Every day, they went down to the river with their baskets of washing on their head. Their names were Dottie, Lottie, Molly, Dolly, Winnie, Minnie, and Ernestine. And they were all good friends. Well, when they got to the river, they sorted out the clothes and plunged them in. They soaked them. They soaked them. They pounded them on the stones. They rinsed them, they wrung them, and they spread them over bushes and rocks to dry. They were the best washerwomen for miles, but they were not happy. The owner of the laundry, Mr. Balthazar Tight, was a very mean and little man, and he kept them working from morning to night. Every morning at the crack of dawn, they had to get up and do the ironing before the day's washing arrived. And when it did arrive in the goat cart, Perkin, the delivery boy, would say, "I'm sorry, ladies, but it's much more than ever today." One morning, as the washerwomen stared glumly at the mountain of dirty laundry, they felt that it was really too much. They all sighed as they looked at the filthy sheets, the grubby hankies, horrid socks, grimy nightshirts, messy tablecloths, and ghastly towels. "Why don't we just leave it?" suggested Ernestine, timidly. Their faces brightened up immediately. "What a marvelous idea," chuckled Dolly, flinging a grimy skirt across the room. "Why didn't we think of it before?" chortled Winnie. And at that, they began to dance. Well, the door burst open, and Mr. Balthazar Tight stepped in, with Perkin. Now, ladies," he said with a frown, "there's work to be done." Then he looked at the great mound of laundry on the floor. "Wonderful," he said. "There's more than ever." This made Minnie so angry that she shouted, "Let 'em have it, girls!" And the 7 washerwomen pushed the mountain of laundry until it collapsed on top of Mr. Balthazar Tight. While he was struggling to get free, the 7 washerwomen raced out of the laundry and into the yard. They piled into the empty goat cart, and Dottie grabbed the reins. "Giddy up, Lysander!" she cried to the goat. And the washerwomen were so excited by their escape that they drove the cart right through the town pond, splashing the clean clothes of the passers-by with muddy water. After that, there was no stopping them. They rode to the marketplace, where they overturned the stalls and set the animals loose. They stopped in orchards and climbed the trees to help themselves to the farmer's fruit. They raced through the hat shops and snatched the hats. They ran into churches and alarmed the local people by swinging on the bell ropes and making a terrible noise. The washerwomen were having so much fun that they didn't want it to end. And so day after day they went on the rampage. And all that washing had made the washerwomen very strong. And so the people who tried to stop them, well, they didn't have a chance. You see, she's bending the gun in half, suplexing the mirror. Everyone was terrified of them. Each village built a watchtower so that villagers could shout, "Look out, the wild washerwomen are coming," when their goat cart came into sight. Now, in a hut in the forest lived 7 woodcutters. They chopped down trees and floated them down the river to the town. And when they heard that the 7 washerwomen were coming, they just laughed. "We'll see who's afraid," they said. "We'll prepare a surprise for them." And the woodcutters decided to make themselves as ugly and as frightening as possible. They tangled their hair and matted their beards. They smeared mud and soot all over their hands and faces and clothes. And they practiced making blood-curdling cries. Soon, the 7 washerwomen came rattling up the mountain path in their goat cart. As they turned a corner, there in front of them was a terrifying sight. The sander stopped in his tracks, and even the wild washerwomen were about to run away. But then Minnie realized that they were looking at the dirtiest and grubbiest things that they'd ever seen in their lives. "Come on, girls," she shouted. "Remember, you're washerwomen." And so they leapt out of their cart and grabbed hold of those woodcutters. They plunged them in the river. They soaked them and squeezed them and pounded them on the stones. They rinsed them and wrung them and laid them out to dry. By the time they had finished, the woodcutters had never looked so clean and shining, and the washerwomen felt quite proud of their work. In fact, now they could see the woodcutters without their soot and mud. They really rather liked the look of them. And so the washerwomen never went back to work for Mr. Balthazar Tight. They married the woodcutters, who built them some new log huts to live in, and after that, people who traveled along the mountain path would see them, all happily washing and woodcutting and having the time of their lives. The end.